Welcome to a meeting of the North Penn School District Board of School Directors, November 10th, 1998. Tonight's meeting is being our regularly scheduled work session. The meeting is being videotaped for community cable channels. Individuals attending this meeting and intending to speak to the board should be aware that they are being videotaped. In order to meet the requirements of the Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, it is necessary to record the names of all citizens who speak to the board during the meeting. To assure compliance with this requirement, it is essential that those planning to address the board come to the microphone and state their name and address. Members of the audience are asked to limit their questions and comments to no more than 5 minutes. This limit will permit time for all those who wish to speak to the board to do so, and whenever members of the audience exceed this time limit, the board president may ask the individual to yield the microphone to the next speaker, and this is in reference to board policy 8344.2. Okay, at this time, Dr. Ryan, would you lead us in a pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Yeah. Doctor, thank you. Good to have you. Whenever Dr. Cotter and Dr. Ryan are here, there's always good news for kids. Good to see you here tonight. I would like to place on the record, Ms. Liberowski, that Thursday, November 5th, from 2 o'clock to 3:15, the Personnel Committee of the Board had an executive session. What day is that, Thursday? Thursday, November 5th, from 2 to 3:15. Okay, also, at this time, we've got cameraman Jesse over here. If he would hit up here, his friend Dave Barrell, we have a very short commercial for you.
The 4-seat North Penn is playing the first seed CU West on Friday at 7:30 in the Quad A playoffs. Tickets can be purchased in the Student Center Wednesday and Friday from 8:30 to 4, and the Athletic Center from 6 p.m. to 8. This is the first time that North Penn has ever made the Quad 1 playoffs.
All right, thank you. Okay, and for those of you that know, it goes like this: go Knights. It's a real quick little jerking motion. Okay. High School Program of Studies, Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Hessen.
Okay, on the agenda tonight we have a review of the High School Program of Studies for the 99 school year, and here to introduce that is Dr. Venema and Dr. Cotter.
As happens each year at this time, we bring forth any significant changes to our instructional program in the secondary schools. There are some changes to be made as reflected in the green sheet at the high school. There are no programmatic changes at the middle schools for 1999-2000. I can't believe we're saying that, but we're approaching the year 2000 very quickly. On the green sheet, there are 4 different courses listed. One of the courses is to be dropped. That's a course in the Department of Business Administration, and that is a keyboarding course. Since our students in the middle schools all take a required keyboarding course, we feel it's no longer necessary to offer a major subject in keyboarding at the high school. A minor subject will continue to be offered because there are students who do transfer in and feel that that introductory level course is necessary, or to brush up on things. So we're proposing that be dropped from the program. There are 3 courses to be added. 2 of those are also in Business Administration Department. Those 2, of course, reflect what we all feel is a necessary utilization of all of our new technology. The Business Department received many new pieces of technology for a variety of purposes, and these 2 courses, one called Multimedia Presentation, the other one an Internet course, are both unweighted minor courses that would be elective in nature, of course, and would count for 0.3 credits. These electives are simply additional options that are available. The Multimedia Presentation course is one where students will learn about software applications, and the Internet course is one in which Internet simulations will be practiced and Internet concepts will be taught. Of course, only those students who have signed off for acceptable use in the Internet program that will be available are eligible for that kind of course. So those are the 2 new courses in business administration. The third course on the next page is another unweighted elective option. It's a semester course as opposed to meeting 2 times per cycle. Students would meet each day of the week for 1 semester, and this best fits the structure in the Health and Physical Education Department. This course is being brought forth because of a very large athletic and extracurricular program, of course, that we have, and an increasing amount of student interest in careers in sports and medicine, or sports medicine. So this is an additional request to add this course to the program. There also are 2 level changes. One is in the music department, an elective option that music students choose called Wind Ensemble is currently at a level 4, and we feel that it attracts more students who are in the level 5 and level 6 courses, and therefore suggesting we make a level change, simply keeping the course but changing the level from level 4 to level 5. Also, we offer a career work exploration program, and Dr. Cotter is suggesting that we split these 2 programs into the career work exploration program at the career exploration course at a level 5 and a work study course at a level 4. The demands of the career exploration course are much greater, and therefore the level change is warranted. I've asked Dr. Cotter to be here to expand on anything that I've said and to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, super. Dr. Cotter, real quick, under the athletic training semester course, major portion of the curriculum involves injury recognition, conditioning, and rehabilitation. So I would think that would also include some gross anatomy and some kinesiology as part of the overall makeup of that course.
We have the course outlined in the top.
And the other would be the career work exploration program in okay, I'm not reading that. Okay, yes, I am. It's going up 1 level?
Yes, career exploration program's up a level from 4 to 5. Work study program remains the same at a 4 level.
We had a young lady here, young Oriental
Exactly.
lady from FPLA that really gave us a good glimpse of what their day looks like between heavily weighted courses and working all day and being involved in school activities. Is she somebody that would be affected by that? Is this the same lady?
Yes, and part of this is a response to that inquiry. It's something that we've been thinking about for some time, breaking out the 2. One being work study, where you're going to work and you're being paid on the job, versus career exploration, where you are basically going out and interning in a position. There's probably a great deal more paperwork and assignments related to the career exploration versus that of the work study.
Okay, so those students that are participating that are also honor students, this helps with the
It helps
overall
them.
picture.
Helps them a little.
Okay. All righty, board questions left, Mr. Mosby?
Just one question. We hiring any more teachers for this?
No, matter of fact, if you look at the deletion in the business component, the business component is dropping a major, which is 6 periods per cycle, and adding the 2 minor electives, which have a cumulative total of 4 periods per cycle, so there would be no need to add additional staff.
Thank you.
Around, gentlemen? Anybody to the right? Okay.
Just quickly, the difference between our 2-period electives versus your semester elective, where it's 6 months,
Right.
I guess 6 times a cycle?
Well, a semester elective, you would attend the class every day that semester, being a half a year, thus half a credit.
Half a year, so we're
Yes.
basically
Half a
4.5 months, as opposed to the 9 months at the other. How much actual difference in time does that really come out to? Just not down to the minute.
It's not much.
but-
In a semester elective, you're looking at 18 weeks of instruction times six days in the
Right.
cycle, approximately. And in the minor course, it's 2 periods per cycle for 180 days. So it's very close in the total number of
Close.
instructional hours.
Well, that's what I thought, and
Yeah.
I know that that was used when we were talking about why athletic training would be a .5 credit as opposed to a .3 credit for something in the academic field related to the multimedia and computer courses.
Well,
And-
if
and I
you,
guess-
the semester is a little more, number one, and it fits all the other electives that fall into these different categories.
It's consistent with the format that we currently have at this point. We have a couple other semester electives in phys ed at this point also. We have semester electives throughout different courses throughout the building. So the formatting of it is exactly the same. It's a half credit versus a .3 credit.
Just to help us all out here,
Sure.
what sort of similar courses did you use to parallel the athletic training placement for?
Well, there is an anatomy course that currently is offered at the moment. It's a semester elective. We had thought that if indeed we might offer the anatomy course in the first semester and the athletic training in the second semester, and it'd be a logical segue for the two. There are anatomy components, in the certainly in the athletic training piece, but the athletic training piece takes it a little further in terms of the injury recognition, rehabilitation, muscle groups and so forth. So,
Thank you.
Okay.
and just to add one other thing about, I guess, the athletic training, we have had a number of students that, on an informal level, have moved on to the college level to major in physical therapy through Mr. Fusco's help and so forth at Duquesne University and a couple other places. So, we think the interest is there.
It's absolutely there, and it's quite co-ed too. It isn't any,
Right.
it isn't predominant to any one sex or
No.
the other. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity for you to come forward and ask questions on this very specific item. If you'll look on your agenda, when this is concluded, we'll then move right into student life. So if there's any questions that you have regarding the high school program of studies, please come forward. Also, Ms. Sykes and Mr. Gamble, if you'd come up to the front row, I'd appreciate it. As school board, as student government representatives and members of the media, I have to make room for them. Thanks, folks. Anybody, any questions? Sure, kid. All righty, Dr. Cotter.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Doc. Thank you.
We're proposing this then be on the action agenda for the 19th of November.
Ladies and gentlemen, any problem? This moves forward to the action agenda? We got consensus? Great. So be it. Thank you, Dr. Venema.
Under Student Life, the Student Life Committee met for the first time on October 27th. Then they discussed proposals to add additional extra duty positions at North Penn High School and Penndale Middle School. These group assignments were discussed and determined by the Extra Duty Committee last spring, and Dr. Venema will provide the details of each of the proposals and the rationale behind them.
Okay, thank you. At our first Student Life Committee, we did discuss the extra duty positions that are listed there, among other pertinent topics related to student life. And what you're seeing in front of you are three proposals. Proposal number one is to establish a new position at North Penn High School, the school store advisor, in the Group 1 category in our extra duty position groupings. You can see the stipend range is listed there. And we're proposing this because of the fact that the FBLA, which is the Future Business Leaders Association organization, has expanded dramatically in recent years. And the school store responsibility has fallen under the FBLA responsibilities. And we feel that it ought to be split out. In reality, the FBLA is a very extensive job and is becoming more so because they're involved in many more activities than they used to be and have many more students. And the school store function is something that we feel warrants an additional group assignment. That equates to the same amount of money that you see there at the top. And it's most likely that the person who's doing FBLA will also do the school store, but it does establish it as a separate position at Group 1. The second proposal is to add an additional yearbook advisor at Penndale Middle School. Currently, there are 2 advisors at Group 2 in all 3 of the middle schools. But because of Penndale's size, and as you can see in the rationale that's listed there in those 5 points below, the reason for this recommendation is simply the volume of work is greater. The book is greater in size, the number of students and staff is significantly greater, and they produce a very quality product, and the students are very proud of it. It seems like each year since we've started, we've had more and more students involved in production of the yearbook, as well as interest in purchasing one. So there's quite a bit of interest there, and of course they're the floodlings to our high school yearbook production, which has won a lot of awards. So we're proposing that an additional position be added at Group 2 at Penndale. The third proposal has to do with the addition of assistant coaches at North Penn High School in 4 different sports: field hockey, baseball, girls lacrosse, and softball. Currently, these organizations each have 1 assistant coach, and we've attached a survey that indicates the number of assistant coaches that exist in many of our competing schools. Of course, we happen to be close to the largest of all of those schools, and this analysis was done by Don Ryan earlier this fall. The positions would exist at Group 3, and we feel that they're warranted because of the need to supervise and teach skills in each of these sports with 1 assistant simply doesn't seem to be enough anymore. And with the number of students to try out, we want to keep as many as we can possibly manage on the playing field and being able to compete. And therefore, we feel that we ought to add these 4 positions. Obviously, the field hockey coach would not be added until the fall, but we're proposing that baseball, lacrosse, and softball be added for the spring season. You can see the Group 3 and the stipend range that's there. If you have any questions, again, 2 gentlemen are here to respond.
Okay. Yes, quickly, Dr. Venema, I appreciate whoever it was that decided to split that FBLA responsibility, and I guess the main reason I was glad to see that is the fact that one component is very, very responsible to the handling of funds. And as much of a good time they have in that student store, that's real money in there. And it's not, both of those responsibilities, one with the kids and one with the actual responsibility to the handling of the money in the store, is two different things. I guess I would ask Dr. Venema, in this other position, the person handling the store, would they be bonded?
It's a good question.
Or should we expect one?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer.
Why don't we just
Get the
assign that
answer
to the
to that.
solicitor to look into? Solicitor? Okay. And just quickly, I think it's a good idea too, in looking at the grid, as we look at the size of our high school and the adding of these additional coaches. I think those coaches should have been there 25 years ago. So it's good to see that they're coming now, if the board so approves. And then I think with the added element of the weight training room and the conditioning and the other elements that are being added to the student athletic day in the area of competition, when you've got some over here playing, you've got some over here training, and then you have some working on machinery, 2 people, one person can't be everywhere. So it really does come down to staff-student ratios. So I think this is prudent. Questions to the right?
I think Donna's question spoke to basically the issue I raised at the committee meeting, that we had gone through a process and actually done some research to review what could be done in reaction to the situation that occurred at Gwinnett Square, treasurers, and providing some assistance without necessarily interfering with their operations. And at that time, we had checked with the agencies that serve this board, as far as checking for bonding that would not create an additional expense, and there was a whole process. And a list of the services incorporated in a resolution by the board, not by policy, but by a resolution of offering support from the infrastructure and those agencies that we've already charged for the purposes of our employees. And that's what I was meant when we checked to see that we've incorporated all of those safeguards that we're offering to the home and school into how the FBLA is now operating. Carol could probably actually pick up on that and maybe help with some answers on that.
The FBLA is similar to all other student activity organizations, and they flow through the same paperwork that any student activity or athletic activity flows through, in that the requests for monies to be moved, either deposited or to be removed, goes through the school principal, through the assistant superintendent, and through myself, and a check is issued from the central office. So I have confidence that the FBLA has certainly been very good to deal with and compliance issues. In terms of the school store, I think Dr. Cotter, that operates a little bit more internally within the high school and does not pass so much through the student activity fund. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say that's probably true.
Yeah.
It operates more internally within the infrastructure of the FBLA at this point, but it's more of an internal operation.
So I have not looked very closely at the school store, but I've talked extensively with the advisor, and she's really meticulous about her paperwork.
But I believe it was researched back then about surety bonding even being utilized for organizations that were not directly agencies of the district, but which operated in our schools with such a relationship as the Home and School Association.
I'll let Michael know, we do have some special insurances covered.
And that's
for
already
cash
been
envelopes
researched.
and so
There's
forth.
some
Well, I'll follow up with Carol
duplication.
on that issue.
Solicitor, thank you. Anybody else around? To the left? Mr. Trubinsky?
Hey, you wanna go? No, go ahead. Just a question, Vince. How many yearbook advisors do we have at the high school?
Currently, we have one yearbook advisor. It was set up to have a yearbook and a co-advisor. Currently, we have one. We've had difficulty attracting a second person to the position this year. We're operating with one yearbook advisor right now. We advertised for the position extensively in the building, and we were unsuccessful.
You also have a business advisor, someone who does the business aspect of that.
Yes.
In the middle schools, it's incorporated.
Yeah, we
together.
do, but in terms of actually the production of the yearbook itself, we have an advisor and co-advisor established, but this year we only have an advisor that's overseeing the operation.
I know you have a lot of student involvement in your preparation. My question is, if you can't find somebody to take this as an advisor, have you put any thought to bringing in the students to do this?
Well, we have a lot of students. We have a lot of students involved in the operation. As you're aware, the entire yearbook operation is probably student organized and supervised by a teacher. The thought that I had most recently was, to be honest with you, I've been working with Mr. Jim Finnemeyer, our Director of Student Activities, in trying to attract the second person to the position. I was most recently, I think as of yesterday, wrote him a memo, a note stating that I would like to possibly explore the possibility of a parent volunteer or opening it up to somebody on the outside, to be honest with you. We've been unsuccessful internally, and following suit and past practice that we've had here, after we have advertised internally, we can go outside, I think, which is not a problem. And I think there might be some expertise and some flexibility possibly amongst our parents out there that could provide us some assistance. So I was thinking going in that direction, to be honest with you, to get some additional help.
Wait a minute, I want to make sure I understand this. So we can find 6 people at the middle school, we can only find 1 at the high school, and now they want a third person at Penndale. I don't know who I'm asking this to, by the way. Who brought this recommendation?
You can ask me.
Now you want a third person, another advisor at Penndale because of the larger student body. And we only have 1 at the high school and a lot of students involved. Now I know that there's a lot of students involved at the middle school too. And I guess I just want to understand exactly why you need a third one. Now you're saying they're doing extra duties because he has a business office that handles other things.
Yeah.
Vince, let me just jump in first about the high school piece, and then I'll let Don respond. Right now, we have 1 person. We have a business manager that helps with that piece of it, and then we have a co-advisor. But on the other end of it, is, we're not operating the way we'd like to operate. The teacher in charge right now is really desperate for another person. And we've looked without success. And there are a lot of reasons for that. I really don't want to go into that component of it. It's pretty much a highly technical operation anymore. So, we've been unsuccessful. But I think we truly need an additional individual, to answer my end, and then I'll turn it over to Don.
I think I need to clarify things because that is a very logical question. You have a full position at a much higher group level, and I don't have the book with me here to identify what level that is at the high school because the responsibilities are greater with the bigger book. You also have a separate position that's a business manager position assigned to the yearbook. And what you're suggesting, I believe, Dr. Cotter, is that the one person who's advising the production needs another person to work with them. So
Yes.
in reality, the ideal and the hopeful situation is that you would have three. If you look at the group assignments and compare them in the middle schools with the high school, you'll see that certainly the high school has a higher group assignments to those positions overall than you would at Penndale, even with the additional position. Now, I can give you details on that if you'd like it.
We're hurting from the supervisory perspective in that, we have a yearbook office. We also produce out of a yearbook, out of a lab with
I've seen your operation now.
you're right. So the technology piece in the lab. So we need, at least two people so we can cover both places at the same time. So, and then the business end is the business end. So.
I'd be happy to provide you with those details so you can see the difference.
I mean, I miss what you're shooting for here. You have a larger student body at Penndale, and that justifies having another person, is what you're asking for. And I'm looking at Vince's operation. Vince's operation is at least twice the size of Penndale's operation, and he's functioning with short-handed. But even when he's full staff, he's only going to have 3 people for a student body which is twice the size of Penndale.
Right.
Twice the workload of Penndale, too, because I've seen Vince's book. It's much nicer than
There's
Penndale.
no question that there's bigger workload. The difference, as I said, is that the responsibility of the yearbook advisor in the high school is greater, and therefore the group assignment is higher. And as I said, I can get you the the
And
that'll show
means
that.
the pay's higher, too.
Yes, the pay is definitely higher because they're expected to work more to earn that.
Okay.
Okay?
I would like to see the backup, though.
Sure.
Yes, just a comment. The timing couldn't be better because a couple of weeks ago I got a letter from a teacher, parent, which I forwarded to you. And I think the other board members may have gotten that also, where this teacher or parent was concerned about the coaches, the additional coaches. So your timing couldn't be better. I'm all for this. Now, several months ago when we were getting our packets on Friday or Thursday, whatever, Dr. Hassler would always say, and it's included in the budget. It's included in the budget. I want this to come forward, but what I'd also like to see by next Thursday is where the budget transfers would be made from to accommodate these costs. I'm all for it. There's a lot of safety reasons why, and training reasons why. I want this to come forward. I am for it, but if you could prepare where the money's going to come from, that would make me a lot happier.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, did you have Mr. Westbrook?
Yes. Just so I understand your sheet here, Doc, on the sports team. These are the coaches we have now, or these are the assistants we have in these? In other words, we have a coach plus these people now?
No, we have the head coach. These are assistant coaches that are listed here. So North Penn has one assistant in field hockey,
Right.
one in baseball, one in lacrosse, one in softball.
You're actually asking now for a third coach in each one of these sports?
Right. In all these sports, really the assistant coach is the JV coach, a separate team coach. We have a varsity team and a JV team. The assistant that we're asking for would be a swing coach that would work with both groups.
Okay. You didn't put that here, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
And I'm in agreement with Mr. Straczynski on the additional advisor for the yearbook. I would like to see the backup as well because, Vince took the words right out of my mouth. We got twice as many kids at the high school. We're operating with one person and basically a business manager. We have half the number of students at the middle school, and we have 2 people there, and we're asking for a third.
It all relates to the levels.
Somehow the numbers just, why do we need 3 people for 1,400 and we got 2 people for 2,600? That doesn't make sense to me. So I'd like to see the backup on that also. I'd like to vote for that. But the athletic coaches, since you're looking for a swing person, I know in baseball, you have to almost have two coaches, because if nothing else, you have someone that works with pitchers and catchers and somebody who works with the fielders, so I can appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, again, on this issue, under student life, high school, Penndale, extra duty positions, any questions from the audience? Yes, Ms. Sykes.
I was, you want me to stand up?
Yes, why don't, maybe we can catch you from there.
She is.
Okay.
You want me to stand up?
Sure.
Jennifer Sykes, 111 Campus Circle, Lansdale. Just like at the high school, the accolade is produced out of the accolade office, and there's a cabinet selected each year, which ranges from 25 to 30 students, and they're assigned to a specific part of the yearbook. Now, they work the entire course of the year. They start in this around August, and they go to the production days sometime in February. Now, they're the heart of it. Mrs. Staley, the teacher at the high school, she oversees the entire thing. The cabinet is the heart of it. They do all the work. At the junior, the middle school level, they don't have a cabinet. It's just basically a club. So at the high school, you're already experienced in that. And so I see why they would want an additional one in Penndale, because Penndale is huge. Like when I was there, I believe, I don't know how many over there, but the yearbook they produced was very good. At the high school, it's more experienced, so it's going to be a better quality yearbook. But again, at the high school, there's a cabinet about 25 to 30 students that helps the advisor. So that helps you with anything.
Absolutely.
It's not all the responsibility on the advisor, it's also like more on the students.
You say you have 25 or 30, how many students do we have at the middle school, Dr. Donovan?
That's just the cabinet.
They have a club.
Well, how many?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that again.
She said they have 25 or 30 students
Plus
that help.
additional students, too.
Yeah, how many?
I think
how many
initially-
students do we have at the middle school?
I think initially, if I recall last year at Penndale, we had almost 100 students show interest in being part of the yearbook, wanting to participate. Now,
With no
obviously, their
experience.
level of, right, with no experience, but the opportunity to work on such a thing and be part of a group and participate was the impetus behind it. Now, ultimately, not that many really fully participated. It boils down to those that were closer to the
You also
operation.
have to pare that number down too to make it manageable.
That's right, that's right.
I mean,
Well, they also have
I
different.
know if I were handling 200 students trying to get a yearbook together, that would be a rather monumental task.
That's right. It is.
Yeah, it becomes of an
The
advisory.
enthusiasm is certainly there.
Right.
But also at the high school, they also have like 3 or 4 years underneath the belt.
Right.
So,
Well, and the production's different, the production style's different, and you have people out of house doing it, so it's really a helpful situation.
thank you.
That was very good. Thank you, Ms. Sykes. Good information. Anybody else from the audience? Okay. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you. Sure, keep going.
Okay, under community services and policy, we have 2 items for discussion tonight. We have the board policy number 4111.5 relating to nepotism, and also a request to add additional equipment for the North Penn television purchases. At this time, I'll turn the nepotism policy over to Mr. Shapinsky for any comments.
Just that we're in a continuing effort to develop hiring guidelines. We put together this nepotism policy. We had some discussions at our committee meeting about the last sentence in there, and we never got a written response. Mike, could you elaborate on that for us, since we had some questions about that?
The question, Mr. Shapinsky, came as to what a technical line, there were actually 2 questions with respect to the last paragraph. One is, what is a technical non-compliance? And in reviewing this, I'm not sure, I think that the word technical may just be surplusage, and I think we probably can remove that from the policy if the committee is so inclined. A non-compliance is a non-compliance, whether it's technical or not. With respect to what this sentence means, as I described in the policy committee meeting the other evening, to which I was invited, I think, to discuss this policy, I think what this sentence really is directed to is a situation where you have an employee who, by a variety of circumstances, is rated or supervised by somebody in violation of the nepotism policy, and yet it's really not necessarily the fault of that particular employee. And I think the purpose of this sentence is to ensure that that employee is not otherwise prejudiced by the fact that the rating or the evaluation was done in violation to the nepotism policy, so that other corrective measures could be taken with respect to correcting so the situation doesn't repeat itself, or perhaps even a reevaluation done by somebody who is not it would not be in violation of the nepotism policy, but the employee, his or herself, would not necessarily be prejudiced by it. And I think that's what the import of that sentence is.
That came up the other night because I was the one that questioned
Right.
that.
Right.
And again, I still question the fact that if someone's in violation of the policy, then whatever rating or decision they would make would not be valid. I know it would punish the individual, but it would be like if you go take a driver's test and someone's not qualified to give you a driver's test, he stamps your permit, or, and a cop stops you, yeah, you're gonna, you didn't commit the violation, but you're driving with an invalid license.
I think.
That's why, that myself, either we strike it or, I'd rather just see striking the thing.
Mr. President,
That sentence.
I understand your point. I think one of the operative words in the paragraph, though, is an otherwise valid personnel decision or rating. And I think that word by itself takes it out of the hypothetical that you've given us. But I certainly understand the position. I think that. I don't think you're getting my point, Michael. No,
the point is that you're saying that if someone got an invalid personnel decision or rating by someone who was in violation of this decision, the person who received that rating should not be punished. And I don't look at it as a form of punishment. They received an invalid rating, then someone else should re-rate them, or, the decision should be looked at. I'm for striking the whole sentence. I just don't think it should be there. I'm not a lawyer. I asked you to get back to me on that, and that's my opinion. I just don't think it should be there because, like I said, we're not here to punish anyone, but if someone is making a decision or making a rating that's in violation of the policy, then they have given an unfair or an incorrect, an invalid rating or personnel decision.
What would you do about it then?
Well, that's what I'm saying, strike the whole thing.
And don't do anything about it?
Well, that's something that, hopefully it's loose enough that, well, yeah, what you do about it is you reevaluate the person or you review the decision that person made and then you go on.
Don't you run into the problem of somebody evaluating another
The whole
employee
purpose
who's not
of.
qualified to evaluate that employee because he doesn't
Well,
have a job?
somebody must be qualified. I hope we don't have that much in
Yes,
conflict.
it's probably a non-issue.
Anything else on that side?
Well, it's just that the difficulty we faced was, obviously the language of the technical noncompliance. And then the other issue was, we weren't trying to subject any employee to problems either.
Right.
And,
This
it might have been a
could.
valid
This could.
rating, and this all of a sudden turns up.
Right.
And we didn't want to penalize the person, and your example of the driver is a good example of that. But that's the only reason that I believe that was there for. If you want to elaborate, Judy, go ahead.
I think the only thing that I would say is that the reason that the language is the way it is to be more proactive than reactive, so that as we are hiring people and placing people, we are very careful where they are working, so that this kind of thing doesn't happen. And it's really a warning to us to be very careful.
Solicitor, I know the definition of nepotism, but at the same time, I think what we're trying to get here is people in a position where they shouldn't be evaluating those that they're close to. This is all related to marriage or blood. And I guess where I'm concerned is I know that we had a situation here where somebody way up there in this district was evaluating somebody they lived with. So can you help me with that?
Well, I think that's a clear violation of policy. That's a no-brainer. I think even I can answer that one, but.
I know, but it's not in here.
That person got a good valuation.
Well, I think it is covered by that. When you say acquaintance, friendship, or other relationship, I think other relationship kind of sort of covers that.
Mike, would this policy be adversely affected if we struck the last sentence?
No, I was just about to say that. I don't think you lose anything if you take it out.
I think it's strong enough the way it is without that sentence.
If the board's choice is to take it out, I wouldn't be upset by it.
Just the last sentence.
Just the last sentence.
Yeah.
Anybody else
And
decide?
the word technical out of the sentence before that.
I think we're taking the word technical out as well. I don't think
You all right with?
both paragraphs.
Here?
Well, just Donna did something in me when she said what she did. Actually, it wasn't technically living in the same household. And in today's times, to be proactive rather than reactive, say in an event that you have a relationship, basically a sexual relationship between a superior and a subordinate, would this apply? Does it actually have the language that you need to cover that?
Well, if you wanted to extend it to what what was just discussed, you would take the second paragraph and extend the close relative language to the acquaintance, friendship, or other relationship language that you found in the first paragraph, if you wanted to go that route.
Okay.
That would be the way to solve it.
Perhaps we should consider it, because especially in today's times, one of the biggest concerns of agencies really is the sexual harassment potential that could eventually develop, especially when a relationship goes sour, as well as the intermanagement issues that you have with surrounding coworkers that feel that that's creating a discriminatory or negative environment on their behalf as an employee of equal status. So we don't have, no one's saying this is existing in this district right now, but I know that when it occurs, it then becomes embarrassing and very difficult to deal with. That case in particular is extremely difficult to deal with when it's actually existing. So of all situations we have here, I think that's one that's important that we take care of right now before it happens, or to avoid it from occurring, so that there's a clear.
Can I make a suggestion then?
Uh,
Why don't we table this, send it back to committee for further discussion, still bring this up later for the first reading, so we can have this approved by the end of the year.
Right.
And then we'll work out the language problem.
Sounds good. Is everybody okay with that? Do we have enough support?
Sure.
All? That's it?
This is,
Okay, Kapinski, continue. I believe the next one's yours also.
We have a recommendation tonight from the committee, Community Relations Committee, to purchase some television equipment for Channel 16. The demand on the equipment and the staff is becoming hard to manage, and they asked for some editing equipment and another camera. And tonight we have that recommendation for discussion.
Questions to the right of the board?
Do we have this in the budget?
No,
Or where's it gonna come from?
you're taking my question, but go ahead.
If I remember right, I think we left that to the superintendent to work that out.
Okay.
Again.
That was the recommendation by the
We're
committee.
meeting in cabinet tomorrow, Thursday, to find the dollars in
If
the
you could,
budget.
along with the recommendation, I think we're all for it. The old one,
Yeah,
Channel
I
16.
support it, I just wanna make sure we have the
the
money.
committee
we just-
delegated authority to John and delegated that.
As you got that delegation the other night, huh?
We pushed it right off on them.
If you could.
You'll have
along
that
with the
for you in your
recommendation, great.
No, we'll take it out of this one. You have to be yours.
I understand
Questions allowed?
Carol's been working on that, I understand.
Left?
It was just brought up that, you'll see in your green sheet that they came forward with an extensive plan. And I would like to see that every year that we budget a certain amount of money, and I don't know what the dollar figure will be, so that, because that department has had very little money to work with. I mean, it's something like $5,000 last year just for repairs. And we know when you're working with technical equipment, TVs, that they can break down. They're very delicate machines. And I think to do this in a realistic way, and I suggested it to Vince the other night at our meeting, that, and to Frank as well, that what we do is maybe we get into the budget process, looking at this plan, that we give them a certain amount of money each year and let them make a determination what equipment they want to replace or whatever, what they feel is absolutely necessary. And then that way we don't get a $180,000 bill in 1 year that we got to replace everything.
Good suggestion.
They use it, they know what they need and what equipment takes a beating and what has the most strain and the one that is most critical, and that's the decision I think that the television department should make.
That's a great idea.
Especially with the departments developing more and more with student
Yes.
interests, and students are really driving the agenda there. That program almost died from starvation and atrophy until recently.
Well, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, they have one camera, and it's used here, and it's used at sporting events and, everywhere. Well, it just doesn't make sense. If the camera breaks down, they're out of business. So it's wise to have a backup.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen from the audience, we're looking at community services and policy. Nepotism was pulled, but if you have comments, please feel free to make them this evening. And the North Penn television purchases, anybody? Anybody? Okay, thank you. Doctor, continue.
Okay, we'll move on to finance, and we have the results from our annual external audit. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Getty to brief us on that.
there's some paperwork traveling around the table. Public does have access to the same paperwork.
Carol said we're close to our best to the end.
Every year around this time,
Folks, they can't hear in the back. Can you hear now? Mrs.
No,
Penniman?
they say they
Mrs.
don't have
Abrams? Can you hear me?
They say they don't have it.
Carol, is this in the audience? Is this in the audience?
Send it out to the meeting.
he said it was. Every year at approximately this time, the board is presented with an annual external audit. Unlike other years, this year has been unusual in that we've had 4 audits in less than a 12-month period. I'd like to define what the purpose of this particular audit is so that it's not confused with the other 3 that we've had. The purpose of this audit is one that it's required by code to be conducted once a year. It's a required audit. It's an audit that is paid for by the Board of Directors. The purpose of the audit is to satisfy the Board of Directors that the financial records are maintained properly and are materially correct. Another purpose is to test by random sampling the integrity of internal controls and to identify areas of weaknesses. To test district compliance with federal and state regulations. This process began in late May, early June, with preliminary procedures performed on-site in the business office with a team of people from O'Malley Falconero, which is the firm that has conducted the audit. These preliminary procedures include testing in the following areas: random employee payroll testing, compliance with required procedures. In the purchasing department, they test for meeting the bidding threshold and proper purchasing procedures. In the human resource area, they test employee files to ensure that the proper paperwork is included in each employee's file. And they do a lot of testing that's based on a random sample, so that when they come in May, we really don't know which they're going to ask for or what volume of material they ask for. At any rate, we then go ahead and close the books in June 30th, and we reconcile the bank statements and prepare our financials. The auditors return on site in late August to review the year-end closing and to review and verify and certify the financials. Essentially, they are certifying or verifying the financial schedules that we internally put together. And the last part of the tag end of the audit is that this year they returned after Labor Day, and they concluded with some additional random testing deeper in some areas, selected areas, and generally when they test deeper, the kinds of things that result are things that might be mentioned in a management letter. At this point, it would be appropriate to state that the Finance Committee met with Ed Furman, who is the partner in charge of the external audit. They met on October 27th. They went over the results of the audit, at least the financials, and I have put together or made available to you a summary of the results for the last 3-year period. In reviewing the results, it is an unqualified opinion on the financial statements, which is very good, except for the fixed asset accounting. This is consistent with prior years. We have made a conscious decision that the way in which we account for our fixed assets is in our best interest, although it does not comply with GAAP accounting standards. We found that there were no findings in the single audit testing and that a separate management letter has been issued. Key financial data shows me that there's a trend over a 3-year period of time that's consistent with the district growing and costs growing, as well as revenues growing. I think it's important to note that one of the key areas that we've talked about, or had talked about last year extensively during budget development, is what's an appropriate safe harbor for a fund balance. If you look down at the middle of the page, it has right above B in revenues, it says unreserved. Our fund balance this year is $3.883 million compared to $4 million the year before. It's approximately $500,000 less than in prior years. The question I think that needs to be asked is this an appropriate fund balance? And the answer is it's within the safe harbor. which is 3 to 5% of your budget should be maintained in your fund balance. Also notable is that the state appropriations and subsidies, while they have had modest increases over a 3-year period, they have not kept up the pace or the growth of expenditures. The same thing is true of federal appropriations. In terms of item D on this page, the food service fund, I think it's notable that the food service fund has a fund balance, but that at the same time that fund balance is gradually being used as we keep our lunch prices low. And to the credit of the food service department, they had a net income this year of $65,000. It's the bottom line. That compares to prior years of a net income of approximately $300,000 and $232,000. It is not the intent of the food service or the enterprise fund to make a profit. So a $65,000 profit is appropriate as opposed to a $300,000 profit. On page 2, I took a selected page out of the audit, and it was actually page 9 of the audit, to point out that there are the key, well, I consider this a key page, and many times board members ask, how did we do in terms of our spending as compared to what we had budgeted? And on page 2, it gives you some indication of, for instance, on the local taxes, for instance, we had budgeted $86,685,000. We received $88,195,000, or a positive $1.5 million. I want to make a note of this because $500,000 of that 1.5 came in July after the close of the fiscal year, and it was a result of an unusual sheriff sale. So the variance is very close. And in the other areas, you can look down the page, and it's notable that in some areas we underperformed in terms of our revenues. In other areas, we modestly overperformed. In terms of the expenditures, there's nothing notable there. Come down to the bottom line where it says total expenditures. It had $112 million budget. We spent $110 million, leaving a balance of $2.4 million. Once again, what's notable on this page is coming down to the fund balance at year end. I think it's appropriate to turn the discussion over to members of the Finance Committee who were present for the discussion with Mr. Furman, had a lot of questions to ask, and asked also for me to come back with some recommendations in the month of December regarding the audit.
Okay. Board questions to the right, Mr. Sherman. Mrs. Sherman.
Yes, as the chair of the Finance Committee, I'd just like to say that tonight you're receiving a summary. However, the full audit was available at the Finance Committee meeting that occurred Tuesday before last Tuesday from today, excuse me. And as we went through this to a greater detail than what we see here tonight, one thing that we did find within the management letter recommendations were that there are several areas that of the findings in which Carol's already addressed those issues, but we also have those that are going to require the cooperation of other departments within the district in order to finance to fully address those, particularly in the area of payroll transactions and entries. Carol will be bringing forward at the next Finance Committee, last Tuesday of the month, a corrective action plan, as she's alluded to, and at that time we'll go into more detailed discussions of what course of action is being recommended. And I believe that overall, the findings of the audit gave the district a pretty good report card, and as a matter of fact, it was particularly noted what progress has been made from past audits. Essentially, they were in the district and finished with the audit at the time of year when they were normally just being able to come in, and the district was just beginning to wrap up its financials to be able to begin the audit process. So I think that there's been a lot of positive gains made. I do look forward to essentially Carol's plan for cleaning up some leftover, I guess, procedures and changes in the processes that have been followed in the past. And I would say that our biggest area right now is really dealing in the area of personnel entries and some of the infrastructure that's required to bring the checks and balances forward. Outside of that, I'm going to pass it to the other board members for their questions, because we've had a lot of dialogue on this already.
Okay, Mr. Shapinsky, you around this one? Any questions?
Just on item 1, I have a basic question for you. I heard you say tonight that this is consistent with prior year, the way they used to do the audit. And my question is, you mentioned that it wasn't the GAAP wasn't used, the general accounting practice as a principle. My question is, can you assure this board that the old way of doing business is done? Because we had a lot of sleepless nights over things like that.
I think that one of my comments was going to be, Carol forgot to mention that normally what precedes every audit, normally the auditors come in 4 to 5 weeks before an audit is started. They have a usually 3/4 inch thick legal-sized pad of questions of internal controls that they go through, generally accepted accounting principles. And they will not just ask Carol, but they will go to the individuals involved to see what procedures have changed. And being that none of those items were brought out in this management letter, and those items, about 7 or 8 items, as far as I'm concerned, immaterial concerns, I would love to get that in the letter. That's my report card. The fact that there was no items mentioned at all, from probably 3/4 inch thick, maybe several hundred questions, that nothing was mentioned there, gives me assurances that GAP was thoroughly applied. I feel very comfortable with it. As far as I'm concerned, Carol deserves, an A+. To not have anything mentioned from those questions is pretty good. I feel very comfortable.
Can you assure the public that we don't do business the way we used to have? We don't have the problems that we used to have? And that things are better today than they were just a few years ago?
Well, they are better, definitely.
I think the business office staff has done a wonderful job, has adjusted to many, many changes in practices and procedures, none of them easy. And I think they've done it awfully quick. In some cases, in hindsight, I look back and I say maybe a little too quick, because it's taken its toll in terms of stress on the staff and also on the district. On the other hand, admittedly, there's always room for improvement. And I think that there will always be room for improvement, and I look forward to working on the things mentioned in the management letter, and I consider them important enough to address them in detail.
And hopefully next year we'll have none.
Possibly. I think there will always be some findings. I think that's what they live for, is to find something. So.
I know.
Anyone this way? Mr. Allen, Mr. Mosey?
Yeah, one of the things, I do this every year at my work, and I always ask my accountant when we're done, should we do it again for another year? And so far he said yes, so I would say we ought to do it for another year here at least. It looks very nice, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one question, Carol. This we received in our packets. Is this what the public has access to?
The public has access to the summary document, and I certainly will make available the full document in community relations during the.
And that will include the management recommendations as well that we received at the management recommendations?
If you would like it to.
They're public documents.
Yes.
Madam President, just a question of procedure. I think we have to adopt it before it becomes an official document. Is that right?
Do it to vote.
I'm just asking because at the finance meeting, the packet that was handed out to the people who attended the finance meeting, the management recommendations were included.
Right.
The management recommendations were not included in this.
There's 2 parts to that letter. I think the first part should be, the second part I do not think should, because they involve some personnel matters, unless Mike can clear that up.
Now, they're considered a public document, though. If you find a management letter is declared that although it's intended for the board, it is in fact a public document. It doesn't name any names, Frank.
No, that's personnel matters.
It doesn't name any names. It really deals with policy issues and some of the internal
Oh, I know what it is.
issues of
I know what it is.
you know,
I know what it is.
unapproved
Thank you.
Speaks for itself. Okay. Any questions from the audience on the audit? Annual external audit? Anybody? Carol, again, thank you. You know, you basically, when you came in, the village back there was leveled, and you had to reinvent the wheel, but it was worth it.
I have one request, though, for next year. Let's just have one annual audit instead of 4, as we had last year.
An extermination. Okay. Technology.
Before we move to technology, I would just like to second what Carol said regarding the business office. There were many long nights that, in fact, some all-nighters, once in a while to get everything into shape as we see it today. So I'd like to thank the entire department. Okay, next section is technology. And at last week's technology committee meeting, we brought forward another request for continued implementation of the technology plan. This recommendation that the committee decided to forward to the entire board includes purchases for additional classrooms that weren't part of the planning when we approved the plan. In other words, we've added additional grade levels, et cetera, at different schools, so we need to come back to you and ask for additional purchases of computers. They fit the plan. They'll be used the same way as the other computers that we had purchased. Also, some additional equipment for our middle school labs, and also for special education. This is the first time we're starting to phase some of our year one technology purchases into special education. It also includes recommendations for the purchase of computers, printers, and monitors for various teacher trainers that at the time of the adoption were not yet identified. And let me explain what that means. When we adopted the plan, the board had approved technology trainers, which are teachers in each of the buildings who would assist after school hours, before school hours, with their colleagues in training the use of the technology, computers, etc. At that time, we didn't know who the trainers would be that would come forward. Just so happens some of the schools, some of the trainers are at the elementary level in kindergarten, first and second and third grade, which was in a sense not part of the adoption this year because we're putting 4 computers in every 4, 5, and 6. But these are the people who step forward, who have the expertise, and we need to equip them with the same numbers of computers in their classroom so that they can serve as models. So we need to come back with some additional requests for computers in those classrooms. There's 65 computers being asked for in this request. To break it down, 19 of them go into the additional classrooms that I spoke about, 30 go into special education, and 16 go to these technology trainers, for a total of 65. And I would say that the recommended purchases are being funded from the approved technology budget.
So the funds are there. You know where they are.
Yes.
The ones that are going to special education, you don't mean just gifted. You
No.
mean everybody.
Yes.
Okay, so all the way down to the most unfortunate child will have access to computers.
Yes.
Thank you. Questions to the left? Mr. Mosey?
No.
Around?
Just
Yes, sir.
point of clarity. We talked about this committee in detail, or the committee meeting in detail. The NEC projectors, where were they earmarked for?
Labs in the middle school.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, around? All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, technology purchase anticipated, 65 pieces, units. Anybody wish to speak to that? Members of the board, we put it on the agenda
Yes.
next week?
Yes.
Thank you.
Before we go any further, also, I need to ask you the external audit on the agenda for next week,
Yes.
consensus. North Penn television purchases on the agenda with the proviso that, I believe there was,
Where finance is coming from.
Our concern is that,
where it's gonna come from in the
Right.
budget.
yes, and the additional staffing for the coaches and whatnot, where's that going to come from also?
Okay, and also that the student life recommendation for the extra duty positions, more backup detail was requested by Mr. Mosey and Mr. Shapinsky. Is that on the agenda for next week?
Yes.
I would assume we would have also the first reading of the nepotism policy. All we're gonna do is change the language that we want to strike tonight.
You all agree?
And we'll still have it at the committee meeting for discussion.
Yeah, we can have it first read.
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay, everything's moved forward. Other?
Okay, under other, we have committee restructuring.
Can I have a point of order for question of privilege? The
Yes, sir.
solicitor has another item that we have to discuss tonight, which is the taxpayer bill of rights disclosure statement. We have a deadline that is put on us by the state, so it's gonna have to come up under other business for discussion tonight.
Okay, Mr. Shapinsky, I appreciate that, because I think the situation tonight with the solicitor is that he has information to give us. None of us are ready to speak to it, and it's information we can read and then come back and place on the agenda again, which we have to.
I don't know if there's a lot we can really say about it. It's
No,
a
not
requirement by
tonight.
law.
Not tonight, but I wanted the solicitor to give that document out at the same time to everybody at the same time, so
Can we do it
if
now?
you want to address it, yes, sir.
Sure. There's enough copies for everybody that way, and there's enough copies for everybody this way.
What about the audience member?
I don't have enough, somebody can make a copy of those in there.
Okay,
They're just 3 or 4 documents.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you'll be receiving from the office is quite a number of pieces of paper here in a folder provided by the solicitor, which is a taxpayer bill of rights disclosure statement. This is a requirement that we have to pass this in policy form by January 1, solicitor?
By January 1.
Okay.
These are not documents that we necessarily will be using. These are draft documents, and they're to be intended to be draft documents, and that's all they are. Just as a bit of a background, as everybody knows, in April, Act 50 of 1998, which is the Local Tax Reform Act, was enacted by the Pennsylvania legislature and signed by Governor Ridge, creates optional local tax system for school districts and includes provisions for homestead exclusion, a property tax deferral program for qualified households, and a local taxpayer bill of rights, which is the issue that's currently before the board. Action must be taken, as Madam Chairman has indicated, action has to be taken by January 1, 1999 to implement the taxpayer's bill of rights. And there are a number of required steps that have to go into this, including preparation of a number of the documents, drafts for which have been circulated to the board this evening and are being made available to the public. I just want to stress that these are draft documents. They are not the final version documents that need to be discussed further. However, it's also very important to note that these are documents which have been analyzed and prepared by the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, finally, and are probably in the best form that is available right now, taking into account all of the issues that are raised by the Act. As a practical matter, the North Penn School District will have little or no connection with the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. We need to pass the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, but as a practical matter, there are no taxes that the North Penn School District is involved with, which really would raise a great deal of taxpayer issues in terms of going through the appeal process. The Act requires the passage of a taxpayer's bill of rights with certain eligible taxes, and those eligible taxes include per capita taxes, occupation assessment, occupation privilege, income tax, gross receipts tax, privilege tax, amusement or admissions tax, and earned income or net profits tax, and realty transfer tax, and any tax authorized by the Local Tax Enabling Act. The only tax that North Penn School District really has any involvement in is real estate transfer tax. And the real estate transfer tax is the real estate transfer tax. It's 1% for the party in the North Penn School District, and there's not a lot of room for appeals. In fact, there are no room for appeal. It's 1% of the consideration on the deal. So the likelihood of anybody actually filing an appeal under the Taxpayer's Bill of Rights is practically negligible. However, because the statute requires us to pass such a Bill of Rights if we deal with any one of the enumerated taxes, we're going to pass a Taxpayer's Bill of Rights. The sample documents that were, and perfectly frank, were suggested by the Pennsylvania School Board Association are the ones which we probably will, from which we will work, and unless there are some major problems with them, are probably in the form that we will utilize in the passage of the Taxpayer's Bill of Rights. It's probably the best information out there, and rather than reinvent the wheel and spend useless time and energy redrafting and recrafting, it makes sense to use the Pennsylvania School Board Association forms once we've had an opportunity to have that reviewed in committee to make sure that it's appropriate and it's understood by everybody.
Solicitor, in the event of, well, that 1% transfer tax at the time somebody's in...
It's actually 2%, it's 1% per party.
Right, but at that time of the transfer of the sale and the transfer of those taxes, if there is a party involved in the sale that is pending the outcome of a decision on tax exemption under nonprofit status or whatever in the purchase of property, is there an allowability for retroactivity or appealing under those terms?
Well, I'm not sure that appeal would actually lie under the Taxpayer's Bill of Rights, because we really don't control that issue. It's not, I said, it's not an earned income tax issue, it's not a net profit tax issue where you may have appealable issues. It's a 1% stated consideration, and that gets paid to the Recorder of Deeds office, and then distributed through the county and the state and the local taxing authorities. So we really don't have much to do with it. We don't even collect it.
Mr. Shapinsky, this is under your committee, and this will be on your next committee
Yes.
agenda.
Well, just for a point of clarity, I mean, we have to remember something. These are requirements by law. We don't have any flexibility here, other than maybe the phraseology of a sentence or two.
Right.
PSBA put out their policy, which Mike gave us tonight. It really doesn't do anything but address the issue of the school board's authority and responsibilities under the new law. Also, a point of contention with the law writers and the people who are trying to apply it is that the real estate transfer tax is not affected by this law. So therefore, we're in a quagmire. Whether we do it or do not do it is really dependent on how we interpret it. Mike feels that it's more appropriate that we just do it. So we're stuck. I mean, we really don't have a lot to say here, and we could move it forward the way it is. There's not going to be a lot of discussion on this.
The only discussion really that's going to take place is what entity is actually going to act as the appeal board.
Right.
And that's really going to be the only issue. And I don't think there are any other issues involved.
All right, but it's on your committee then. Any questions this way, Mr. Allen?
Yeah, are you telling us, Michael, that everything that's in here is issues of time periods and procedures is all dictated by the new law?
Right out of the statute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Super. All right, gentlemen, both of you, thank you. Mr. Shapinsky, solicitor, thank you for bringing that forward. Okay, on your agenda, we have under other, we have committee restructuring. A little history. Approximately a year ago, it was decided to break from, I had decided as board president to break from the process of the past, which was to have a liaison to the school board under the areas that we now call committees. At that time, administrators would meet with one board member, the liaison. They would meet in private, somewhere, some office, someplace, some lunch, and ideas of the administration would be foisted on that board member, and the board member would try and come in and discuss that with a full board. It allowed for very little, if any, grassroots involvement on any ideas that come before this district. So by the time those ideas that the administration had, some good, some were lousy, were almost half-baked by the time we got to a Thursday action meeting. It was decided at that time to look at the way municipal government operates in this area, and most committees operate in this area, and that is to go to a committee system where the larger aspects of government are broken down. In most areas, it's public works, public safety, finance and administration. I believe all of our municipalities in the area run on those set committees, and then there's always commissions of this, that, and whatever, separate and apart. At the time, we used the same liaison groupings that we had before, and then just turned them into committees. And there was a chair, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and in one case, there was a group of 5 in technology at one time that made up that committee. Those meetings were then made public. They weren't in some administrator's office. They were public, and you were invited to every one of them, as inconvenient as that schedule had been from time to time. It was an attempt on the part of myself and other board members that have been running on an open government platform for some time, and I think it includes everybody here, to open it up to the community and have their participation. We believe that worked. We believe the participation worked. We believe that there was more information out there. I believe that the administrators' ideas and the thinking of the board members were challenged by your participation, and in that light it worked. What did not work was how cumbersome it had become. We eventually got to a point, I believe now we have like 18 committees, and we have a lot of nights out. So the 18 committees, as cumbersome as that is, and still is, it did give you a chance to see 9 board members in a rare opportunity to leadership. They had leadership of that committee. They could run committees, they could participate with agendas, participate with administrators they might not have had an opportunity to work with before, and to meet a variety of different folks from the community, issue to issue to issue. We got to see 9 board members provide leadership in those areas. Your concerns and complaints have been heard. Scheduling and the attempt to make so many meeting dates has been close to impossible. Nobody really wants to live here, and I see a bunch of you nodding your heads, and I give credit to those of you that have been so steadfast in your attendance, and appreciate you. On the other hand, the board members give just as much credit for continuing in that process mode for some time and putting out as best a product to the community as possible. Pending the reorganization in December, there is a desire to come forward with less committees and to place many of the other ancillary committees under a larger group. I had asked if Mr. Shapinsky and Mr. Hill, Mr. Shapinsky because of policy, Mr. Hill because of legislative, both because of personnel, to come up with an idea that could streamline the committee system. Keep all that's good about committees intact, and yet deal with your concerns and the concerns we share with you. Mr. Shapinsky, and I thank you, came forward with a plan or an idea as to how to consolidate those. I believe he delivered that plan through courier to all the board members for an opportunity to comment on tonight because it's a work session. Mr. Shapinsky, if you would, and how you broke those committees down and what we're looking at.
Just, I wanted to start something for discussion. I mean, obviously, we all know the sun's going to come up tomorrow. We can always state the obvious, but there was a need to look at consolidation as a way to improve the system. So I just put it on paper for your discussion to start the conversation, and that's really what it is. It's a starting point. Not a lot of input went into it. It was just my idea of trying to figure out a way to make it better. So I asked the board president to put it on the agenda for full discussion.
Here's the opportunity, and to discuss it at this time, and my understanding, if there's enough support, it will go through. Mr. Shapinsky, if you'd read off the I believe we have 5 or 6 recommendations for
Actually,
committees.
I don't know if I wrote it.
Actual
breakdown.
It's not on the agenda.
Why don't you read it? We have a breakdown.
Oh,
Attached to the agenda.
Has a potential for the committee reorganization. We tried to do some consolidation of some of the positions or some of the assignments. We had hoped to take these.
Mr. Shapinsky, hold on. Mrs. Pennick.
Is there something that we should have? A handout?
It's not, you don't have it?
No.
Well, we're going to get it.
We'll get it. Third one.
I didn't know if you were having a seizure. I didn't know what you were doing. We're going to get it for you. Give Mr. Gould.
Here, you want the other copy we have?
I'll track it there.
Okay, definitely.
Well, anyway, my idea was to take the 18 assignments and try to reduce them to 5 committee, larger committees. I'm hoping that the workload will be a little bit easier on everybody, especially with the idea of attendance. I still believe there's going to be a necessity for some liaisons or special appointments to certain jobs like the high school expansion and NAP, VOTEC, and the IU. But I believe all the other jobs can be combined under 5 committees. No, I can't, because you know what, the paper's not here anymore.
He froze. No script, he freezes.
It's a great idea that if we can, we'll plan on one night or 2 nights.
I would like to preference it by saying this. I mean, I don't want to set this in stone, and I don't want to review this in a year. I'd rather review it a little bit sooner. If we start to have difficulties with this consolidation, I would like permission to come back and make changes, or at least suggest changes sooner than waiting a year. I think maybe we could have talked about this reorganization a little earlier, and might have made it a little bit easier. But I think it's the way to go. And if we have to refine it again, then we'll come back and do it again.
I have a copy, Vince, if you want me to read off.
Yeah, why not you, Beth?
Thanks.
It's consolidated into 5 committees: Support Services Committee, which will handle operation of plant maintenance, transportation, food services, and of course expansion. Educational Services Committee, which will review and make recommendations to the board in areas related to curriculum, instruction,
organizational patterns. I don't know what organizational patterns is. Principal, Principal services, special education, guidance, technology, students, health activities, and health services. Finance committee will review and make recommendations to the board relating to contractual obligations, insurance, taxes, payment of bills, budgetary issues, investments, bookkeeping, and accounting procedures. Personnel shall review and make recommendations to the board in areas related to personnel relations, negotiations, meet and discuss benefits, employment, and separation from employment. And the last one will be community relations and /policy /intergovernmental affairs committee. And that basically will set policy, set forth in the board policy manual. The committee shall develop ongoing plan, program designed to build healthy relationships between the community and its agencies while educating the community and its agencies as to the mission and goals of the school district. The committee will be charged with all legislative, governmental, and municipal affairs. So it's basically consolidated down to 5 committees. Like I said to Vince, I don't have a problem with it. The only thing, and I'm glad that you brought it up, was the fact that we may find that after we get into this, some committees may be overworked. Now, I'm looking at a couple here, like, the Educational Services Committee. That's an awful lot for one committee to handle.
Yeah, and matter of fact, when we put that together, I was thinking that now, instead of having just one administrator, you're gonna have 4 or 5, which you'll also get better cooperation with each department. But at the same time, you're gonna have a very large arm of the administration inside that committee.
And the only other thing, Vince, I don't know that NAP and high school expansion should be broken out. That could be included as part of
well, I thought it would be under facilities, but I
services.
just thought possibly, since there's not really a lot of business items under those type of things.
And
you
if
might
it's a
wanna
temporary
liaison.
assignment,
Right.
redistrict is a temporary assignment.
Right.
The research and homework being done on alternative education right now is a temporary assignment. The North Monco Technical Career Center must be separate because that's an appointment to another elected office. And the Montgomery County IU also has to be separate.
And don't forget the other things. Meet and discuss is a special act for the administration.
Right.
The MPEA, meet and discuss, is contractual. So there are some specialty things that are gonna be falling under these
There's
groups.
But they still could
union
fall within those
negotiations.
committees, though.
I believe so.
They could be. But anyway, there's 5 here. There will be 5 chairmen. There'll be, then I guess, 3 people assigned to each committee with a chairman.
I'd like to also make a recommendation that aside from a chairman, that you have maybe a co-chairman on each of these
Vice chairman.
committees. Because if for some reason one person or the other can't make it, I know some of the problems we've had with some of these committees is that, Bill was all alone at one committee and the other 2 people didn't show up.
We had
So-
conflicting times. The meeting was scheduled same time?
No, I don't know.
One-
No,
It's an easy-
You never had a name, right?
But no, Pat makes a very valid point that I think once these committees are formed, that they should get together and set up the time that they meet.
Yeah.
They should be considerate of the public in that. They should also form their own
And set up a
inside
co-chair.
controls so that they can handle it and make sure that they comply with all the sunshine laws.
There should be a co-chair in the event that the chairman can't make it.
Absolutely.
Business
To
still
run the meeting,
proceeds.
to run the meeting, right?
Yeah,
Business
things come
still
up.
proceeds.
Also, there's going to be more deference shown to the employee. I had a problem with that myself personally, and was starting to feel bitter after a while that not enough consideration was being shown to those of us that work. So anyway, that's what we have. Any other comments from the board? Starting to the right, Mr. Schoen.
No, I think it's a great idea.
Supportive?
Absolutely.
Cool. Mr. Sharp?
I think to say that we've grown to too many committees is basically understating the obvious. I'm glad that Vince has come forward with this. Basically, I think it's a pretty common sense approach, and all the categories are pretty much as we kind of circled some of these together. Art is basically handling all of those that are now, I think, being designated for support services. And that he had support services, and he had the NAP and facilities, and the high school, and essentially, quite frankly, even though there were 3 different committees and there was a slight different composition, facilities, NAP, and the high school has essentially been one agenda, one meeting, and the business has just been incorporated. The only difference was we've had to go through the process of making sure the minutes were able to distinguish when certain members of the committee participated in a consensus that was general facilities versus those from that in the high school. So I would personally think that it should stay just as facilities or support services and not go into branching it out into the subcommittees, because basically we've just kind of incorporated it in essence with just a little formality and extra attention to those minutes. And we'd be drifting right back to where we were before if we do that. The only other aspect of this plan is on the Educational Services Committee, where I do see technology, and that's the only place I do see technology. And I think there's a great difference between the administrative technology, such as the penimation system, and the business services aspect of our technology for those purposes versus the technology component that's directly associated with curriculum and the educational services. You're dealing with a different group of employees that are involved and a whole entirely different function. So there may be consideration of technology falling under, education as it relates to curriculum, your educational technology and your administrative technology, either being under your finance or business services type committee or support services, because the functions are so different. Transportation, Edulog versus what we're actually dealing with in curriculum technology, those programs being put right in the classroom. And that may break up some of that burden that's there under the educational services. And outside of that, the only issue I have to say that's outstanding, and Vince asked me to bring it to the board as a whole when I addressed it at his policy committee, is that we've had all of the committees of the past being appointed by the board president, and I'd like to ask if we're intending to support the board policy that says the board appoints when we move through the reorganization process.
Appoints committees or appoints people to the committees? It clearly states that the board appoints committees and that they serve at the pleasure of the board.
Right.
But it does not imply that how the appointments are go.
Well, the duties of the committee shall be outlined at the same time of appointment, and the committee shall serve at the pleasure of the board. So everything within the policies, whether it's ad hoc, Vince, whether it's board committees, standing committees, or whether it's citizens committees, the authority, just as it is with the intermediate unit and the other agencies of the board that are specifically designated by school code, is essentially that the authority to appoint and to really connect the electorate to the elected representatives to the subcommittees is really by the board's vote, by the full governing body.
I think that's an interpretation the solicitor should make, because that's what you're interpreting is that the appointment of a committee and the committee serves at the pleasure of the board. You're implying that that also means the members of the committee.
The individuals.
And we have different policies that apply to that.
And they're all pretty clear. This last one was finally adopted March 1998. Frank Bartle wrote it, and he had actually sent us an opinion, first in writing, and of course it took the process 2 readings in order for it to be adopted, and it was adopted by this full board, amended March 19th, 98 to this committee structure. And I mean, the language is very clear. The board may appoint, ad hoc and or standing committees.
And I think that's one of the issues that was raised at the policy meeting, that once the board decides to go in this direction, then we can look at all the applicable policies to make sure that we're compliant. And that was, but the board has to make the decision to make the change before we go to doing
Right,
it.
to reducing the committees down to these 5.
Well, and anything else that would
And
apply to
anything
it.
else, right.
The board, and as far as the assignments,
And then, then the appointments, we can check with Frank about
Well,
that, and I guess.
I don't think I'm mistaken, but I think, Bill, maybe Donna's been on the board a little bit longer, can identify this. That's the way the procedure's been handled since I've been coming to school board meetings, since '89.
It's also the way they do it in any of the other municipalities. The chairman or the president picks. The bottom line, Vicki,
they
is
do
we can
not
check
pick
it with the
planning
solicitor.
commissions. They do not pick planning commissions by one chairman of the board. The boards vote on appointments for planning commissions. And quite frankly, I've asked this of our solicitor in the past, and the language is that the power's in the board, and the only difference
Do you
that
want to
makes...
set people up for no votes? Is that where you're going?
No, if that's the case, that's
If
democracy.
you want the board to approve who gets on these committees, there
Oh
could
my
be
God.
some rather rude awakenings to the vote count.
We'd be here for
Donna, and
Okay,
I
when
would,
it comes to leadership.
excuse me, I would not be
Okay.
surprised one bit, but that's democracy. And that's the constitutional democracy that we've taken an oath to uphold. And so if it means that, that's fine. I lose plenty of votes. But the power of the board is respected, and the board and the definition of what makes up the board needs to be respected. And
Well,
I'm sorry, it doesn't matter,
Okay,
whoever's
well,
the
Mrs. Sher will check it out. I believe you're straining at a gnat again, but I think we will go and check it out, and we'll get a decision from
Our
Frank Barr.
solicitor is here, and he asked me, I was asked to bring it to the board here tonight. I asked this at the committee meeting of policy, and I was told to bring it to this meeting tonight.
Okay, it's here. It's been heard. Have you noted it, Ms. Liberowski? Thank you. Solicitor, would you get back to us, please? Thank you. As to whether or not board president, whoever that is, can appoint individuals to committees of the board approved by the board. Thank you. Comments this way around? Shapinsky?
No.
Mr. Brown?
I guess you're looking for consensus to move ahead with this.
Right.
I would assume.
It's,
Okay.
taking the committees down to one.
Yes, I'm full-heartedly in favor of that. Express my opinion. I just want to make sure that we agree that we're allowed to change this throughout the year. That's all.
Well, you know, I don't know, I don't
want
think,
to get that emphasized.
yeah, that's why I brought it
think we
up. I
agree.
mean, I just don't want to
We
sit, I don't think it needs to be in a policy for review, but obviously, you know, if they serve at the pleasure of the board, we should be able to bring it up for changes when
I
we
think
want.
so, yeah.
If it's too much,
Especially,
we agree.
not everybody's gonna be serving on the same committee, so if this one particular committee says, we gotta split this up,
Yeah, okay.
let them be the one that makes that recommendation to the full board, and then we can discuss it.
Okay.
I remember a previous solicitor saying that 5 board members can do anything they want to commit a crime.
That's a pure democracy.
Problem.
Yes.
That's a pure democracy,
Mr. Mosey? Thank you, sir.
not a constitutional democracy.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your turn.
Good evening, H. Bruce Gordon, Montgomery Township. Just one question here regarding these proposed committee reorganization. Will you be looking to move ahead with comments made after the last budget cycle that a new finance committee will be board of the whole?
For the budget,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, I thought it was finance committee was the comment.
Can I address that? Can I- Under this proposal, it was my intention, it was my thought that all budgetary issues as far as the procedures, the preparations, and all those things would be discussed by the finance people, and they would work with Carol to design how they're gonna bring it forward. But I distinctly remember the board president wished that the budget now be handled by the full board, the
So-
actual budget itself.
Okay, so you'll do other non-budgetary issues in the subcommittee,
Finance
but then
issues, and then there's specifically the budget.
at the time the budget starts work, you'll
Like,
come
you know,
together
we
as a
had
whole.
tonight, as a perfect example, Finance Committee had the annual external
Mhm.
external audit, which is separate from the annual budget that we have to prepare and adopt by such and such a date.
Mhm. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Abrams.
Linda Abram, Upper Gwinnett. I don't think I slept through it. Did you discuss, or will we be discussing at another time, when these meetings will occur? I know you made reference to the fact that you would like to consider working members of the board and the community. And I know that I've expressed my concern about the time of some of the meetings. I think the consolidation is worth a great deal of merit, and I think we should give it a try. I'm glad to see that we can review it. I'd like to see that the meetings begin no earlier than 6:30 or 7 o'clock. I know that's hard for the administration, and I realize the long hours that they would have to put in, but it's virtually impossible for community to come.
Committees, it'd be great if we could almost view those committees as an extra evening for work session type of work to be done by committee. And they start at 7:30.
Okay.
That's pretty much the time we're all
Right.
used to working around. Because of work sessions, because of action meetings, And if we can look at that as a board, now that's a decision that has to be made, that's not gonna be made tonight.
Okay.
I think it'd be great to stick with that 7:30.
Okay, and I would support that. So are you folks, so you reorganize in early December, and I know that the committee list that was given out way back sort of ends at that point. In other words, we get through the month of November, and then the cycle stops. Is this to be voted upon next Thursday at your action meeting?
It's my hope that it is approved so that it would go into December reorganization.
Okay.
As the framework that the president at that time can work with.
Okay. Is it at the reorganization meeting that then the structure of how these will be laid out during a month will occur? I'm just trying to get a handle on when the public will be made
I
aware.
don't think that can be done, because first you're gonna have to appoint the members of the committee, and they're gonna have to meet to find out how they're gonna work and what they're gonna operate as.
The appointments are usually that action meeting in December.
Okay.
After reorganization.
Yes, okay,
And that's laid out, and then at that time,
okay.
public discussion in those times. and places.
Okay. Let me remind you that if our redistricting process occurs, you'll be dealing with that about the same time in terms of public comment and what have you. So, you know. Packed house, absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, please? Committee structure. Anybody? All righty, where else are we? Electric choice. Anybody bored yet? You know, we thought that's an electric chair recommendation on the agenda.
We have like an employee participant where we get into
Yeah.
this consortium.
He went to the wall. Englewood is, what, 300 yards?
I have to run a line right across the back.
300.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's 9:10. There's this process to fill a vacated board seat and public discussion on the changing of a work session from one day to the day before. So we could get out of here at a decent hour. Gentlemen, on the camera,
An hour.
at a decent hour.
You didn't say now on electric choice?
Choice.
We're done.
We're done.
Are we trying to take the table? Okay. All right. Art.
This is a very simple request. I attended a meeting on Friday of last week to learn that, I don't know, does everyone have theirs with them?
I have,
I read it.
I don't need it.
I read it.
I read it.
I attended a meeting at the IU, and we reviewed the need to enter into a contract prior to Friday, November 13th. The Delaware Valley Energy Consortium bid electric providers for those of us that have been fortunate enough to be chosen for electric choice beginning January 1, 1999. Out of 7 bidders, PP&L Energy Plus, which is not PP&L Energy or electric company, but a division thereof, a separate division thereof, did in fact submit the lowest bid. I will meet tomorrow morning with my account manager. We have not gotten all the details of the contract, but when this comes forward to you for the action meeting, you will have a contract attached. The reason we bring this to you, and we've had conversation with both Mr. Bartle and Mr. Dooley about the need to act upon this and have you ratify it because it has to be done before Friday. It will reflect the savings of 22 to 28% on the buildings listed above, and when you consider a $575,000 or $600,000 electric bill at the high school, that's a considerable savings. So we would encourage you at the action meeting to ratify the action that we're taking, whereby we will participate in this program, which will begin January 1, 1999.
Or why Pembroke Modular? What is the matter, Mr. O'Donnell? Are you all right?
No, I'm just saying, there's a savings, there's your camera, there's your,
There you go, right there.
Yeah, that would
It's like
be.
it's like this puppet show over there.
I'm so excited.
Pembroke
Pembroke
modulars,
modulars, what?
we were only chosen for the modulars and not for the building.
Okay.
At AM Culp, for an example, we were chosen for both the building and the modulars, Montgomery Elementary, the building, North Penn High School, the entire complex, North Wales Elementary, and the Pembroke modulars. Now, it's important to note, and I mention here, that there is a surcharge of .0005 cents per kilowatt hour for each building involved in electric choice. And what that does is that helps to fund our group, DVEC, as far as the legal work that's required. We have an attorney out of Camp Hill that regularly attends all the PUC meetings, helps develop our contract, helps to put the bid document together. And then we also use an engineering firm out of York County. And each participant, and by the way, there are 130 school districts and municipalities in this group, in Delaware, Chester, Bucks, and Montgomery County. So we have strength, we have great pricing, and we need to prepare for January 1, 2000, when all of our PICO accounts will be eligible for deregulation and will be able to participate in energy choice.
Well, you know what, with Penfield and Pembroke being almost identical in building shape, configuration, the only two real sister schools we have, and the savings that you have shown us are, at least for the 8 years I've been here, you know, PICO deserves this. They really deserve this full court press. They have been so arrogant. They have thumbed their nose at any efforts you have made, I have made, or any other board president has made to look at their fees as it relates to two identical schools, and we have considerable savings from PP&L and, you know, considerable expense for an identical building. So
And if you notice,
they really have this coming.
we will also get a 4% reduction at Penfield, Hatfield, and Oak Park, since they are serviced by PP&L, so that'll be an off the top 4%.
That's a shame. If PICO would have sold this years ago, maybe they wouldn't have had to be so manhandled.
Just one thing I'd like to say is the approximately $4,000 for the fee, that's a one-time surcharge. We will not be paying that every year.
Questions around after Mr. Mosey, this way?
none.
None? Any puppets?
Any comments?
Yeah. Any murmurings? Mumbling?
Gestures?
This way to the right?
No comment.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, anything? Electric choice, not the electric chair? Betty Robinson and I had discussion about the electric chair prior to coming in here. She was quite entertaining. I told her I support the electric sofa. We should take them out 3 at a time, not 1 at a time.
And I get to pull the switch.
And you're the switch leader. Okay. Any questions, again, from the audience? Anybody? Electric choice? Okay. Process to fill the board seat vacated recently this week. It is my understanding from the solicitor's office that next Thursday night, this board will have on its agenda the opportunity to accept the resignation of Sharice Krieger. Of course, with the support of enough board members at the time, it will happen, and the clock starts that evening. 30 days after that, we must have a replacement in that seat. It is an opportunity for somebody to fill the balance of her term, which is approximately a little more than a year. During that time, we are going to have, after the acceptance, we'll have a notice placed in our local papers, similar to the notice that was put out at the time that Dick Bowman had resigned back in '95, and we will be looking for interested members of the community to apply for possible appointment to that position. Many questions have been asked of me, and I'm sure other board members, and so let me clear up some gossip now. Republicans and Democrats, adults in the North Penn School District are invited to apply. I believe you have to be over 18 to be appointed. And you need to all remember that I believe every single person sitting here was cross-filed to be on school board. And many of us have enjoyed the support of both parties. Many of us, I think off the top of my head, Mr. Mosey, Mr. Allen, myself, have been on both tickets before and have enjoyed the support of both parties. So it's not going to be one or the other. The letters of interest and resumes that come in to Ms. Liberowski will then be made available to all board members. And then at that time, we'll decide in executive session how best to proceed with a selection. But that selection has to be made in 30 days, or what happens, sir?
After the 30-day period, a petition can be filed by 10 taxpayers of the North Bend School District seeking the court intervention in selection of a school board.
The only other thing I would add on a more personal note is whoever is making consideration, keep in mind that it takes a considerable amount of time, considerable amount. If not just in the attendance of meetings, but the volumes of work that you need to read through and be mindful of if you really want to do a good job. So, any questions around the board in regards to the process?
Only one. In hearing, I know the code states that you have 30 days from the date of vacancy. Does this then mean that Mrs. Krieger is in fact still a member of this board until we take the vote to accept her resignation on November 19th?
That's right. She's tendered her resignation, but it has not been accepted by an action of the board.
So she is still, in an official capacity, a member of the North Penn School Board?
That's correct.
I don't know if anyone's told her that.
Is that until we accept
But I
it
did.
by vote, or until we find a replacement?
To accept it by vote.
Once it's accepted by vote, then her resignation is effective.
Does our accepting her resignation supersede her will according to her resignation, which I think is, I was informed was a public document and should be out, please, to the public, that letter. And it said in there that it was effective immediately, and she signed it, former school director. Do we supersede her will?
You have to act in accordance with the school code, and it's not effective.
So she has, until this time and until we vote November 19th, she is in fact still an elected representative of this community.
Let it right now come
Thank you.
before this committee, and we can, the majority votes on it. That's it.
No, I think the question was.
No, but then it becomes that she's still an elected official with the right to maintain the last year of her seat, I would say. Unless you want to go through a process to try to unseat her. That's very difficult.
Okay, any other questions of members of the board? Members of the audience, any questions? Yes, sir. Let me guess, track, right?
Jerry Vigiletti, Hatfield Township. I'm a little confused about what I've heard and what you said tonight about interviews being held in executive session or public session.
No, I didn't say interviews being held in executive
No, you
session.
didn't
I
exactly
said
say.
interviews.
Right.
When all the information is in, I'm assuming that we'll meet in executive session to decide how to proceed. No, not about interviews.
That's what you said, yes.
Yeah, to proceed.
Then could you tell me, will you do interviews in public?
Absolutely.
I would hope so. I thought, that's what I thought I understood.
Okay. I think the Wissahickon had some confusion recently over that, I think.
Again, it's another matter we should check with the solicitor.
Are the issues over the process actually executive
Mr.
session?
Sharp, can he please have a finish? Just let him finish.
That's okay. Will these be done at regular meetings, or will they be a special, like a work session or something, or will they be held during the day? The interviews.
If there's going to be public interviews, they will be in the evenings, not like in the middle of the day or something like that, because the whole point of being public is you want to be there, right?
Right.
So I think we're recognizing, because of things that you have said, because things we feel also that more and more things need to be held in the evening where there's a greater chance of attendance.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else, please? Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
Madam President, I have a concern that was not on the agenda tonight, but I was advised through a board member to bring it up.
Sure, I need your name and...
Sure, Jean Marie Meisel, Montgomery Township. Okay, it's regarding redistricting of the elementary school boundaries.
Okay.
Is that okay to bring up right now?
I believe so. Anything before the board? Go ahead.
Okay, I live in the Gwinnett Point development, and our development, this is the third time, as I understand, is being reconsidered or considered for taking our children to another school. And it's my feeling, my great passion, that my child and my children stay at Gwynnor Elementary. That's where we are. That's where our development has been for the last several years. We believe that moving our children is not fair, as we have been moved once before, but this is the third time the development is being looked at. We realize the various things that go into redistricting, such as location of developments, number of children, age of children, real estate changes, and we're just asking that the board and the administration really understand that this development has been looked at and has been moved, and we're looking for continuity in this small community that we are, and hope that you will hear us. We have sent letters to some board members and some to administrators, and as this is the year of leaks, the leaks are rampant out there as to what developments are being moved and being looked at. So we know that this issue will be coming up in the next several weeks, but we're asking you to hear, at least I'm asking you to hear for the Gwinnett Point development, that we would like to stay at Gwynnor. We ask you to strongly consider that we stay at Gwynnor, since we have been moved several times.
Dr. Venom, if you can address that to some extent, and also how you view recidivism of communities.
Well, just briefly, to let you know that no decisions have been made, obviously, and the committee is still working on options and considering all of the things that you have expressed and that others have expressed, both in writing and through committee members. We've gotten a lot of feedback and input already. Our plan is to bring forth some options to the board in December.
Okay. Thank you for hearing us.
I do know,
Hearing me.
too, ma'am, that some consideration that has been given in the past redistricting committees has been to look at those communities that have moved a number of times. And so that was also a piece of the data collection that was.
I understand that, but with leaks being what they are all over this country at this point, I was eager to respond so that I could be heard, and possibly too squeaky, but nonetheless wanted to take this opportunity tonight, and I thank you for that.
Very good.
She should be aware of the public schedule. Do you know what it is?
I might add, I got a phone call tonight. I was on the phone with a lady, his mom, about 45 minutes, and I really wanted to talk to you in private, but I guess what I really want to do is say, no decision has been made. There still will be 3 public meetings for parent input. Then, after that public input, the committee will then meet again, and we think it's alternative to come back before the board. But no decision will be made until the public meetings have been made. And I'd like to simply request that, being that no decision has been made, that nobody on the committee simply rule something out or rule something in, which already has happened. And I'd request that, again, please don't make any recommendations to your neighbor. Tell your neighbor that, oh, you're not going to be in or you will be in, because that has already happened. And that could cause problems.
Spoils the process. Okay, anybody else? Anybody? Mr. Sherry, you had a comment you wanted to make earlier?
Only a question that if you took an executive session to discuss the process, it's not litigation, there's no one suing us. Is the process okay, or are we going to be more of a conference, perhaps a conference meeting to receive information on what the process would be?
No, you misunderstood.
Okay.
If we have an executive session, it is to ensure that the individuals that have applied are in fact qualified, and if there's any questions about their qualifications, i.e. citizenship, they're not 18 or over.
To review applications?
Yes.
Okay. I heard the process.
Anybody else? One last thing. There's a desire on the part of various board members that we reschedule the December work session, which is scheduled for Tuesday, December 8th. The possibility of having that December 7th on a Monday following reorganization so that people aren't out 2 nights in a row.
Is it the first Monday?
Yes, it is the first Monday of the month.
I can't make it.
Why?
I'm a fire company meeting.
What's the?
I'm afraid with my fire company, and that's my monthly meeting.
We're in the building.
Burn the building down.
I have to
Any other again? Any other comments this way?
I have to work.
Wait a minute, I want to clarify something. Our reorganization is held when? The first Monday of
December
December
7th.
7th. For reorganization, and you want to make the work session from the 8th to the 7th?
Right, since we're already here.
Oh. In that case, I'll be here.
It's also that we present the district.
Any comments or questions? If there isn't enough support, it dies, folks. Then we come out 2 nights. You know, I don't care. Anything over that way, Mr. Mosey? Are you okay?
Doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter?
No problem.
Anything this way?
No problem.
Okay. The only person we're missing is Mr. Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, you two, any questions?
Just summarize, what you're doing is after reorganization, you're gonna have the 8th school board meeting on the 7th.
Yes, since we're all here.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Move to adjourn, speak district.
Motion to adjourn?
I withdraw my second.
You didn't have a second.
Two quick announcements, a reminder on November 20th, we have early dismissals, and we added the high school to that early dismissal for their, she's happy, School Violence Summit, and also, we hope to see everybody Friday night at Central Bucks West. Do I have this right? Go Knights?
Go Knights.
Go Knights.
Jared, stand up. Show us what the jacket looks like on a man. Can we get this guy in the jacket? Miss Sykes, you're a cheerleader, come on. I mean, is this, are we playoff material or what? Of course. How do you do it? Go Knights.
Mr. Mengel, you might want to announce on television that we agreed this afternoon that we will be running booster buses. $5 total cost includes game ticket, round-trip transportation North Penn High School to the stadium and back.
They
We
sound
don't
like
have
horse.
the time yet, but we
You
all.
know what, that's a great commercial. Who's in charge of the camera? I know you got run too. Who's taking his photo right now? Okay, go ahead, Art.
We did that late this afternoon. We agreed because it was a request from Dr. Cotter to do booster buses. We're willing to run as many as we have to run. And as I said, it's $5, including a ticket, round-trip transportation to War Memorial Field, back to the high school.
Are you driving any of those buses?
No.
No snacks, Art?
No snacks?
Snacks, Art?
Tailgate.
That's up to the kids. They'll probably have snacks.
Okay, motion to adjourn.